In example 2, we're going to talk about amplitude. Amplitude, the constant factor a in y equals a sine x and y equals a cosine x changes the graphs of y equals a sine x and y equals a cosine of x in the following ways. It's going to expand the graph vertically if the absolute value of a is greater than 1, and it is going to compress it vertically if the absolute value of a is less than 1. The amplitude is half the distance between the maximum and minimum values of the function, or half the height of the wave. So if you take a look at the model over here, here's part of the wave of a sine function. If you think about this is kind of the middle ground right here, this midline. The amplitude is going to be half of it. So here's an amplitude in this direction and an amplitude in this direction. And again, if a is greater than 1, we're going to expand it so our graph's going to come up higher and down lower. And if we compress it, that means our graph isn't going to come up quite as high. It's going to be a little bit lower, so something like this. For y equals a sine bx plus c plus d, and y equals a cosine of bx plus c and then plus d, the amplitude is always the absolute value of a. So let's take a look at the next part. It says describe how the graphs of f of x equals sine x and g of x equal 1/4 sine x are related, and then find the amplitude of g of x. Well, let's start with the amplitude. So if we look to see what that amplitude is, the amplitude is going to be the number in front of that sine function, which in this case is 1/4. So we can say our amplitude is 1/4. And then how is it different than the regular sine graph? Well, because 1/4 is less than 1, this compresses the graph vertically by a factor of 1/4. Next, I'd like you to look at the try this that's underneath there. So you can pause it now, unpause it when you're ready to check your answers. If you did letter A correctly, you should have gotten the amplitude to equal 6, which tells us that this expands vertically by a factor of 6. And if you did letter B correctly, letter B, your amplitude is 1/8. And this compresses vertically by a factor of 1/8. If you have questions about the amplitude, let me know.